Dee Lippingwell is a Canadian-born, incredible, famous rock star photographer. She is here in Vancouver. She has captured the most famous rock stars, 70s, 80s, 90s, and yes, even into the millennial. She is the recipient of Canada's Famous Woman Award. I was like, when I read that, I was like, wow, that's considerable. The first in her field to achieve this distinction. She has been inducted into the BC Music Association Hall of Fame. She has published 4 books. I have 3 here, and I have been looking through them and drooling, and showcasing just iconic musicians and the stories. And some of them you really see the evolution. I mean, when you were here, Dee, and we were looking at Keith Urban, and you're like, people didn't even know who this guy was, right? Up at the music festival, it's like, Keith who? I don't know. He's a filler. And now we'd be like, what we would pay to go see him. Her whole collection of photography has been accepted into the Natural Music Centre of Canada in Calgary, and to date, her highest honor. And so, no further ado, Dee Lippingwell, thank you so much for sharing and coming on to the Stand Up, Speak Up, and Show Up. Yes, you have stood up and spoke up and done all of that. You've had a lifelong career. Do you want to maybe just tell us a little bit about yourself?
I'm a mother, I'm a grandmother, which are the most important things, in my life. Wow, it's been a whirlwind career that started out as a hobby, and it's taken me down paths that I never thought that I'd ever go down, let me tell you.
So, at the start of your career, right, in conversations with you, you didn't have the most positive reactions from other male photographers.
Oh, they thought that I was a groupie. It was when I discovered that this is what I wanted to do for my life. I mean, I had to jump through a lot of hoops to even get a press accreditation. And I remember the first time that I was at the Coliseum, and there was 5 or 6, the Vancouver Sun, the Vancouver Province, all the weeklies, all men, and all standing to one side doing the old chit chat. I'm as good as you, right? Whatever. And it was like they thought I was deaf. What's she doing here? Oh, isn't she just one of the groupies that, they've given her a camera, and oh, she can't be that important because look at her equipment. I mean, she only has 1 camera. Well, I showed them, didn't I?
Yes. Yeah, right. Let's do some Zoom love on that. You did. You absolutely have. It was interesting. I was talking to a musician, and The Cure, as you know, was in Vancouver last week, and I was on my way to The Cure, and I was going with someone. We were going for Amnesty because The Cure wanted us there, and I was talking to somebody who was also big in music, and I was like, oh man, next week I'm so excited. We have one of the most incredible rock star photographers coming onto the summit, and they're like, oh really? You should call Dee Lippingwell. She's probably better. I was like, well, interestingly enough, it is Dee. So look, I mean, I'm sure you didn't just take some photographs and end up with 4 books and a life career. Like, when did you start? When you talk about how you thought it was a hobby, how long ago was that? And how did you sustain yourself financially while you were building this career?
Oh, well, it started, I had my love of music. I had my first taste of show business in 1972 when Led Zeppelin, their concert was canceled because of the Rolling Stones riot. So the city of Vancouver said no more. So I was devastated because I was a big Zeppelin fan. So I phoned up the radio station and I said, look, there's a whole bunch of us that have tickets. They were holding a show in Seattle for the Vancouver tickets, but we didn't have a car. So he said, well, why don't you rent a bus? So I said, okay, well, so the next morning I got out of bed and I phoned up a bus company. I said, well, how much does it cost to rent like a school bus to go down to Seattle? And, 36 people. That turned into 3 busloads of people. And I I didn't get to meet the band, but they acknowledged me on stage. My first sort of taste of show business, right? And every time after that I went to a concert, I thought, damn, I didn't bring my camera, just for my own personal memories. By camera, I meant my Instamatic. I didn't mean my 35 millimeter. And, you know, it's just people pushing me saying, you should try the 35 millimeter. So it was just a case of, okay, I'll try it. And my brother wanted a ticket to Pink Floyd. And my neighbor, I mean, I was taking pictures of trees and flowers and kids and whatever. And my neighbor, he said, well, you know, you're in the nosebleed section. So here, I'll lend you this 500 millimeter lens. And I said, okay, well, the lens was so heavy that I had to get my brother to hold it. I said, no. This is no good. This is not happening. So I put my regular lens back on the camera and I made my way down onto the floor. And then festival seating, there was no chairs. So, and I walked right through. It was like, excuse me, please. Oh, excuse me. And took the photos. They were in color. They were for my brother and for me. And it was like, oh, so I took the roll of film into into a Shoppers Drug Mart to be developed. And when I got my package, oh, they had a special one. I remember this. Instead of 3.5 by 5s, you could get 5 by 7s for the same price. I was like, oh my God. So I told them when I dropped off the film, I said, look, just print the ones that turned out. Don't print anything because I don't want to pay the 39 cents. So when I went to pick them up, there was all these gold stars on the envelope. And I said, what is this? She goes, I don't know. I've never seen that before. I was like, oh, so she called the girl from the back. The photo thing was in the back, right? And she said, oh my God, these photos are incredible. You know, like, which band is this? And I went, oh, it's Pink Floyd. It was, wow, really. And I took, and they all turned out. I mean, some were a bit fuzzy and whatever, but I just sort of went by instinct. And, you know, I opened up my third eye. And so a couple of weeks later, I was driving down Broadway, and this music store stopped at a light. And I noticed that they had a poster in the window saying Pink Floyd photographs, right? In concert, right? So I just whipped around the corner. So, I mean, I want to see, right? So I walked into the store, and right at the front of the store, there was this big, huge poster, and it had all these black and white images. Well, they weren't really images. They were black and white blobs. You couldn't tell what the band was, right? So me being, you know, shy and whatever, went out to the store manager, and I said, look, if you're going to do a display, you should have a good display. You should have photographs. You could actually see who the artists are. And he goes, well, I suppose you have better. Again, the thing that, no. And I said, well, I suppose I do. And he said, well, I wouldn't mind seeing them. So I said, well, I'll go get them. So to make a very long story short, I went, got them. When he saw them, he ripped all this poor fellow's pictures off. He goes, how do you spell your name? We're going to do it on the fax machine. We're going to have your name. And that was my first show.
Wow.
So, and it was just, and then from there, and just like, and then I remembered to take my camera to every show. And like I said, it was just for me. But then people started saying, wow, these are great. I thought, well, I can't afford to do color. So I think I'm going to have to switch to black and white. And I'm going to have to teach myself. Okay, fine. Right? It was like, well, how do I do this? So it was a Time Life series of books. They were wonderful. They taught you in pictures and in script how to develop your film, how to, what temperatures to use. They had samples of what you did wrong, what you did right. This is, you shook the can too hard. It was amazing. I just sucked all that information in. Went out, bought a darkroom, a whole darkroom set secondhand. I actually gave it to my boyfriend at the time because he was going to set up the darkroom. So, and he was interested in, well, a year later, I still had the darkroom and the boyfriend was gone. It just continued on. It was not like I didn't have a goal, right? I couldn't go to the concerts without being accredited. So I went to the Georgia Straight because that was the only publication that was around that did music reviews, etc. Excuse me. And Bob Geldof was the entertainment editor. And I walked in, it was the Georgia Straight at that point was in a really bad part of Gastown. And I had to walk through a, let's just say a sex shop, go upstairs to their offices, right? Passing by dildos and whatever. It was like, oh God, what am I doing? And I went upstairs and Bob said to me, well, no, these are good. These are good. But, just keep trying, right? Keep trying. So I said, okay. So he said, yeah, bring me back some pictures of not, because we can't just use you for music. You have to be able to take a picture of a poet or a riot at Ocala. We have to, you have to be all encompassed in this photography. So I did do the riot at Ocala, by the way, but not before that I was hired. But he finally said, okay, I'll give you an assignment. So when I went in on the Monday for the assignment, all the staff sort of looked at me and they went, Bob's not here. Bob and his girlfriend left last night to go back to London. Apparently they had been in Vancouver on a visa permit, temp tourist for like 2 years. So immigrations was after them. But the Georgia Straight hired me and then I was accredited. So I was able to surge forth and conquer.
Wow. So how long from the, Kodak guy, or sorry, Shoppers Drug Mart guy, here's me, Kodak, till you started to get paid? Like this was an expensive.
As soon as I started working for Georgia Straight, I got paid.
Okay.
I got paid $5 for every picture published. Didn't get paid for film, didn't get paid for gas or whatever, didn't get paid for my time. So if they published one picture in 1 week, that was $5. So I was like,
how did you survive yourself? Like, what did you do to?
Well, I still had my day job. I worked at St. Paul's Hospital and I was a unit clerk and just, sick people. It was just, I guess I'm like a sponge. If you're sick, but I just kept working at my job. So my night job became going to concerts and getting myself known. And then when I was working for the Georgia Straight, introducing myself to all the record companies. And it just took off from there. The record companies, they paid my rent most of the time. At one point, I think it was about 1978, 77, 78. I told one of the promoters, I said, I think I dropped off a whole whack of pictures and I think he owed me like $200. And I said, I think I'm going to quit my day job. And he laughed at me and he goes, do you really think that you can make a living doing what you're doing? Bring up your son, whatever. It's never going to work. And I just looked at him and I said, watch me. nobody tells me I can't do something. It's, so, but I had to learn how to do my own lighting. I had to learn how to do weddings. I was taught. I did take a couple of courses through UBC with really good photographers, and ended up teaching the class because I knew more about stage lighting than they did. So, it was.
You know, I think we can all relate. Hey, Angel, when she said, watch me, like,
Right.
watch me,
Yep.
have you ever had a watch me moment?
Oh my gosh, yes. Oh yes. And it's like at the moment it's like mama bear, like from inside, you're like, wait a minute. No, what do you know? Right.
Well, I have a very interesting story. I was sitting. I always used to get the copies of the Rolling Stone. That was my only extravagance that in my life was and I was sitting there reading the Rolling Stone, and I'm looking at the pictures, and I thought to myself, I wonder how I'm going to feel when I see my name at the bottom. I wonder how I'm going to feel. I couldn't. 3 weeks later, I had a copy of the Rolling Stone with not only my photo credit, but a byline credit. 3 weeks later, 3 weeks, it was like, and a check for $100, which I photocopied and sent to everybody that I knew. Look, Rolling Stone magazine. I wasn't on the cover, but.
That's so exciting. That's so exciting, right?
Yeah.
When you put it out there and you're like, I
did.
imagine.
Yeah. Yeah. When I published my first book, Best Seat in the House, I had a publisher, and I did a cross Canada tour with my son as a driver. And it was like, well, how can we pay for this? The publisher it was their first thing. Well, how can they pay for it? So I went to Labatt's, and I said, I'd done work for them. So I said, can you sponsor me, maybe buy gas? And they went, well, that doesn't sound too bad. Yeah, no, we can do it. I said, I'll give you, Labatt's, presents, D. Lippingwell's traveling rock and roll picture show. And then I thought, okay, Labatt's is in, what goes with the bats? Potato chips. So I went to the potato chip company, and, I got all these sponsors, and we went across Canada, and we set up in shopping malls because Debbie Gibson did. Right? It's like, I just had a thing in my head, and then I just did it. It was, but when I first had my next book was written after 17 years, and I had dealt with a whole lot of publishers. My pictures were in a lot of other books, and I approached these publishers and I said, I have this book that I'm writing, and it's the stories behind the first book, because everybody asked me, did you meet these people? Like, what were they like? It was like, I'm going, well, what's backstage like? Well, it's really boring. You just hurry up and wait. And if you happen to see, you hang out more with the sound guys and, the crew, right? Because you're part of the crew, right? So I started writing out the stories. And so what I did was I had about 10 of the stories done. So I put together a package to these publishing companies that had said, no problem, send us an outline, and, didn't happen. Didn't happen. They didn't know where, like, where would we put you in our catalog? Make a new section. Right?
Hashtag make a new section.
Yeah, exactly. So I just decided, I just said, okay, I'll do it myself. I'll do it myself, and I'll use social media. And I'll use the media that I know here in Vancouver to promote it. And we had our second printing in 2020, right? So one of the publishing companies that I had sent my work to, I waited for 3 months because they were the most they were the most promising because I worked with them a lot before. They said, no, we don't. No, we're more into more eclectic kind of books, right? So I said, okay, well, can you send me my package back? And when they sent me the package back, I realized that they hadn't even opened it. They hadn't even looked at it, right? So that's so we published the first 3 songs, No Flash. And then I worked on the Merritt Mountain Music Festival, which was country music that we did, my husband and I did for 17 years. We made a limited edition publication of all, it was just like whacked full. And it was just like, it sold out like that. And my business partner, she said, well, maybe we should do more. And I said, a limited edition book is a limited edition. Right. But what I'll do is I'll put another book out with just the performances in it. So that's what we did. So
I love that. Now, we should say, for those of you that are familiar with the Merritt Mountain Music Festival, which is a considerable music festival globally, you went from this story that you're sharing to head photographer at that festival, right? I mean, when I think about someone where we called earning our wings, but I think more like, our first speaker talked about resilience. And as you're talking, it was like, oh yeah, check it out. And you didn't open it, so I'm going to publish it. Like this book that, they didn't want to publish. I'm just looking at it right now, and it's like pictures of Jeff Beck. Does anyone know Jeff Beck? Can you imagine sending a book back? Jeff Beck, David Lee Roth, Bowie. I don't know, taking some pictures of Bowie. I don't think I'm going to open that envelope. Ann Wilson, I know that you went on tour with Heart.
yeah.
Geddy Lee, I mean, is he not just a beautiful soul? Honeymoon Suite, I just went and bought their album a couple of weeks ago. And
oh, they're great.
Yeah, Corey Hart, George Thorogood. I mean,
They
George
didn't
Benson,
even open
it's
it.
like, no, I can't find a category for this. Hashtag make a category.
I love that. Yes.
Well, when I did do a deal with Book World, and they said, where do you want to be? And I said, in the bestsellers section. And they put me right out front because I was local, right? But it was all the, So, but it's like bookstores now. I mean, even in the past 20 years, I mean, how many bookstores do you see when you're walking down the street?
I know.
You know?
We were just talking about that.
No, it's a shame. It's a real shame.
So look, we've been talking a lot. Me and Angel talk a lot. We share a lot. The speakers share a lot about having people to follow. Like listening to you in your way of photography changes a woman's life in the area of fashion design. Like it's like the principles of gumption. I always said around this people said, if there's one word around stand up, speak up, and show up, what is it? I said, it's gumption. For you, it's like innovation. But you, like many, as much as you have been a massive mentor and, absolutely a legacy, absolutely. Of course, she's in the book. You don't have to ask. It's called Rock Legacy. How the heck am I not going to have D in there? But you also had mentors. I know that you said to me, you're going to be surprised. You're going to be surprised. So who was your mentor?
Actually, the guy who ran the paint store down on Granville Street, who used to be a photographer for the Prince George Times or whatever. And he was so wonderful to me. It's a surprise, right?
Yeah, like a guy in a paint store.
And he just couldn't do it anymore. He just couldn't do it. So he's managing this paint store. So I went in with some paint. And at that time I had a small portfolio, and he said, oh, are you an artist? And I said, no, I'm a photographer. And he went, oh, can I see? And I looked and he goes, wow, these are incredible. Whoa, gee, wow. Well, and he was the one who said, go to the Georgia Strait. He was the one who said, just show these pictures to everybody, take your portfolio around to all the record companies. He was basically, and then of course, all my friends and my family were very, very supportive. But she was the one. And in fact, when he got married, I was the one who took his wedding picture, but I didn't realize it because he was one of the ones who told me that I had to make sure that, him and Bob Geldof told me that I had to do other things. He phoned me out one day and he said, look, he said, I'd like to get a Valentine's picture of myself and my girlfriend. I said, oh, no problem. I said, I have a mini studio now set up in my spare bedroom. I had this massive light and that I'd got secondhand. I think I paid $25 for it. And I said, sure, come on in, right? So I did this photo shoot and he says to me, you just shot your first wedding. And I went, what? And he goes, those are our wedding pictures. I said, well, why didn't you tell me? And he said, because I know that you would be so nervous, but I just let you do your thing. And, and it was fabulous. But, the guy in the paint store, it wasn't, I took my portfolio down to visit friends in San Francisco and I actually met Annie Leibovitz, but I didn't know it was Annie Leibovitz at the time. And her advice to me was stay in Canada. Stay in Canada. Don't come to the States. You just stay in Canada. Right. And I said, I have no intention of coming to the States. I'm staying in Canada. That's where I live. That's where my family is. Right. And then afterward, when I found out that I was this tall, gangling woman, right, with glasses and whatever, I knew her work, but I didn't know what she looked like. And when I found out Annie Leibovitz had critiqued my work and told me to stay out of her territory and stay in Canada, I was just like, what?
At least you knew it was good.
Yeah, right.
Your work is good when ... right?
Yeah. Yeah.
You're told to kind of, wow, that's really interesting. So I'm kind of showing people scarves and books and, the merchandise. And we know that, rock and roll, we know that musicians, they have merchandise. I'm so enthralled with this scarf. I know it's not the most important question to ask you today, maybe, but what inspired you to do a scarf? What inspired you to?
Well, my first idea was, how would you like to shower with your favorite rock star? Or how would you like to sleep with your favorite rock star? Putting them on pillows, right? I thought, nah. I said, no, I'd like to do a scarf. I'd like to do, a scarf. Well, 2 years, different art, I actually had so much difficulty in getting people to understand my vision of what I wanted. What you have is what I wanted. But I actually had to put together like a fake scarf and glue the pictures on where I wanted them. And I took it to this wonderful woman who said, no problem. She said, let's do it on black instead of white. And I said, okay, because black is so rock and roll. And the pictures will show up a little bit better. So the scarves, the material is made out of 100% recycled water bottles. And part of the proceeds go through the person who printed them to Anxiety Canada. So a little bit of charitable work that goes into it. Right? The scarves are available on my website. Mm-hmm. Everything is available on my website. I've had we've done the second printing of the scarves now, so we do have some in stock.
How did you decide who made the cut?
Oh, well, it was difficult, but it was real easy, if you know what I mean. Mm-hmm. It's like these are my favorites. In my office, I walk in, I see Tina, right? I see Sting, I see Mick Jagger, I see Rod Stewart, I see, they surround me. So it was just like, okay, okay, that's it. I only wanted 6 per side. So Yeah.
So not only does it have this great give back and story, but you know that you're being surrounded by these favorites as well.
Yeah. Well,
And Stevie Nicks is on there.
yeah.
Just right.
Oh, my shoot with Fleetwood Mac was cursed, absolutely cursed. Yeah, the first time I shot Fleetwood Mac, and I mean, I was a fan, and they hadn't come to Vancouver, and so I went and I made the error of developing 3 rolls of film at once in my canister, and I mean, it was 2 o'clock in the morning, and the developer was so slippery that the film canister slipped out of my hand, and the film went rolling out, and I'm trying to save it, and it was totally ruined. I got all fogged. It was like maybe 2 or 3 images at the end. I was devastated. I was absolutely devastated. And this was a job that I was doing for a magazine publication. So I phoned up the record company and I said, "Where are they playing next?" "Calgary." "Okay, I got a flight." I said, put me on the backstage, on the list." So we're at the Calgary Stampede at the Dome thing, right? And Fleetwood Mac are on stage and we're shooting away. And all of a sudden we see these clouds rolling in, and a windstorm blew up and the lighting fell over. One of the lighting towers fell over. No, it was like, "Okay, you're gone, you're out of here." And it's like, it was like the first 3 songs. And it was like, I think the first song and a half before the lighting tower fell over. So it was like, boy, I sure hope I got what I got, right? So yeah, it was yeah, Fleetwood Mac are pretty much, they were yeah, the next time I shot Stevie Nicks, it was like I almost got trampled by the crowd because one of the fences fell down. Yeah. So I love Stevie.
Oh my
Good memories, right?
Do you keep in touch with, like, I know you go and you photograph them, but is there any do they keep in touch with you? Do you do things with them beyond that, or is it just the photography?
It's
Concert?
mostly, I would say 90% is just the photography. Um, because it was never about hanging, because I would leave because I had to develop my film because I was on a deadline for a magazine, free digital, right? So it was pretty insane. I mean, I remember when the Who came to Vancouver and they did their first world podcast interview. It was on the whole world. And before the show started, I went and I took pictures of the band. I took pictures of the disc jockeys with the band, right? And then I left, and I made special arrangements with a film developing company. "Can you develop this film in like 20 minutes?" And they said, "Sure, no problem." I opened up the darkroom. I went in. The broadcast was, I think, a little over an hour. Could have been an hour and a half. When the Who walked out of the studio, I had laid out all the pictures for them to see with all the disc jockeys and whatever for them to sign to give to the staff at CFOX, right? And Roger Daltrey said to me, "How did you do that? How did you do you have a darkroom in the basement?" I went, "No, I don't have a darkroom in the basement." But that was, it was like sort of, but now digital is like, everybody's got a camera. I'm not shooting concerts anymore, for the simple reason that the shows are so large and they have so many different stages coming out from them that it's better for me to sit in a really good seat at the end of a small walkway, right, and take my pictures from there, because there's no photo pit, right?
Mm.
The photo pit has been done away with, right? It's like, oh God, anyway. And if you if you do happen to get a photo pass, I remember going to Madonna. They make you shoot at the soundboard. They had to give me a stool to stand on, right? So that I could shoot over the crowd, right? And even with a 400 millimeter lens, Madonna is like this big. So, but you know, like people say, are you still shooting concerts? And I go, well, no, because I've already shot them when they were young and beautiful.
I've
You
got to
know?
ask, how long?
I got pictures of Keith Richards with no wrinkles.
Oh my gosh, that is such a great name of a podcast. We got to talk. We got to talk.
That would be
That's
a
a great
great
name of a
podcast name. Yes.
Oh yeah, that's a great podcast name. I knew Keith Richards. I know. How long has this career been going? How long have you been?
Since 1975.
Wow.
That's
Right.
impressive. That is an
Yeah.
impressive career.
Yes, and I didn't start till I was 28, so you figure out the math. But you know,
So Dee, what are you doing now? Right at
now I'm going through when all my negatives were accepted into the National Museum. My husband and I were in our storage locker, and he pulled out this big, huge storage box container, and he said, "What's in here?" And he opened it. And when I went to concerts, if I could afford it, I would throw in a roll of color film slides, right? And then when I got it back, I would, you know, throw out the bad ones, and then they went into this box. So when he opened it up, his eyes just bugged and said, "Oh my God, Rolling Stones, Tom Petty, Tina Turner, oh." He goes, "Well, this is your next book." So that's what I'm working on right now. Yeah, I'm going through slides. So my next book will be color pictures that nobody's seen before. Again, with no wrinkles.
There you go. That's a great. Even that, just no wrinkles. That's a great name to a book. Dee, you've had such an interesting career, and I think one that you talked many times of resilience, from, you know, seeing the poster, pulling over and going in and saying to the guy, like, "I got better pictures than that." Like, what? Like, that doesn't, like, that takes gumption, you know, being willing to go to work. I mean, it's Bob Geldof, but being willing to go to work for $5 a picture, and you paying your gas and you paying your this, and like, you could maybe just get one picture in the magazine that week. That's $5.
And
Like,
then trying to get paid. Oh my God.
trying to get paid. Oh, let's do a show on that.
Oh, you know, you go into Dan McLeod's office, right? And, you know, I mean, it was a struggle. They lived on the advertising, right? And I'd go in and I'd say, "Okay, Dan, I haven't been paid for a month. You know, you owe me $45. Oh, he said, "I know, I can't give it to you right now. Come back in a couple of days." That's how it was.
Right.
Right. But so, you know, I mean, even shooting local bands and getting to know the local bands and practicing on like Trooper and Loverboy. I practiced on them, right?
Wow. I mean, it's hard to say one thing. I mean, there's so many things that you've said, but there's a lot of people breaking into the world of entrepreneurial. Like, we've seen that in droves, right? Women getting vision, women feeling empowered to have vision. You clearly are one of those women. Julie Brown is here as well. She is one of those women as well. Sarah Troy. I saw Brenda here, that have paved a lot. Like, you've paved back. I've always say you got to think backwards and keep going forwards, right? And you women paved the way. You know, like, you paved the way. I always say, like, oh, what's this summit about? What it's like, well, one woman in Vancouver, Canada stands up, and some woman on the other side of the world today, in this moment, for some reason, is walking into her boss to ask for a raise, and she's super scared. but she feels a movement behind her and she just opens the door and asks, right? Or asks for 2 weeks off or asks for whatever it is. And there's,
You don't ask, you don't get.
yeah,
You don't try, you don't, you know.
but it's because of women like you that have gone forward. And no, seriously, truly, you got some more bumps and bruises than probably some upcoming entrepreneurs right now that can step in. I mean, you had to learn how to do this photography yourself. You know what I mean? Like, there wasn't a YouTube video that was showing you how to do it, or a networking group that was going to help you promote it, or a podcast that you could go on. So the bottom line is you're part of that. What are some of what would you say, or what could you say to women that are still in a bit of a place of, I don't know, maybe, possibly, or they're somewhere in their business, but they're afraid to go to the next level? Like,
You can't be afraid. You just have to go for it. You just have to do it. If, you know, if your passion is making jewelry, then do it. Right? You can find all sorts of outlets. And especially in this day and age where, you know, I mean, I think it's a lot easier now than it was for myself, because there wasn't the avenues that, you know, and I would tell people who want to do what I'm doing is, if that's your passion, then do it. But, you know, don't really quit your day job until you're at least situated a little bit, right? You know, you do have to think ahead of, well, okay, can I survive on $45 a month from, you know, and then working for the record companies, right? And I did the math, and it was a while before I said to myself, I think I can do this now. I think I've built up enough clients, and you know, shooting bands was not my major source of income, even though I worked for national magazines or whatever. My initial source of income was doing the weddings and the bar mitzvahs and the bat mitzvahs, and I did children's birthday parties, and I did whatever. Right? I did models portfolios. I got in touch with bands. I said, you know, you need your promo shop picture sucks. You need a new one. Right? And there was a fellow in town who was just doing promos. But every single one of his promo shots looks exactly the same. So all the bands looked exactly the same. I said, no, you need to get something that, you know, shows the personality of the band, not the personality of the photographer. Right. So anyway.
Wow. Angel, I'm going to pass it over to you before we wrap it up a little bit. I mean, I'm just full.
What an honor, right? What an absolute honor that you would be here today with all of us to inspire us, to share. We love these beginner stories, right? Where from nowhere, from nothing, but that you showed up and you know, put yourself out there and just kept, you know, walking through the next door, but truly paving the way for women in this space, for us to have this, you know, to have your gifts and talents for the world, and that you're still finding treasure troves in your storage locker.
Yeah. It's like, oh. Yeah, I mean, there's been several photographers who've said, if it wasn't for me, they wouldn't be doing what they're doing, right? So, and that makes me feel really good, right? It, you know, it makes me feel really good.
Well, you made us feel really good today. So I put your link in for folks to go and find your website. I did put that in to the chat. There's not like an actual shopping cart on your website. We have to email you. So I've emailed you.
So I emailed you. Hey, if there's a will, there's a way.
Yeah.
You know what? Before we go, Dee, I met Dee through the incredible Julie Brown, and who is another icon who's in Vancouver, Canada, in music. And Julie, I know that there was it's a tech day. So you weren't able to get on when Dee was first sharing, but Dee, I hope you don't mind if I ask one of your Julie just could not stop telling me how incredible you were. She's obviously a fan. I'm sure you're a fan of each other. And I was so grateful that she connected me to you. Julie, do you want to share about women in music or a story about Dee or, anything like that? Please feel free. We can't hear you yet, but I know you're just looking for I threw her completely on the spot. Saw her there. I'm like, is that hot blonde? We can't hear you. We can't hear you. Are you able to find? She's like, it's a tech day. So you don't show like you're muted. No, she's going to plug something in. Okay.
There she
There
is.
we
There
go.
she is.
Can you hear me now?
We can hear you now.
Do I even understand what I just did? Because Sarah, stop laughing. Dorothea, she knows about my technical abilities. But Deborah is so funny. I asked myself, what should I do? And myself said, put your headphones on. And here I be. Dee, you know what I'm talking about, right? Okay.
Exactly.
Well, I can just say this about Ms. Lippingwell. You will not hear one person in Vancouver or any of the rock stars that she photographed say a bad word about this woman.
Oh.
Because, she's confident. You all heard her. She is incredible. I mentioned in the chat, the top rock photographer in North America, Annie Leibovitz, met Dee. Dee, I think that was in California, right?
Yeah, San Francisco.
Okay. And basically said to Dee after she saw her work, do me a big favor, stay in Canada. Okay? I mean, that's how incredible these photographs are. And I mean, I know the band Trooper. I know these guys. They worship the ground she walks on. They don't give a damn they were used as an experiment, because the photographs she took of them, they're still using. Well, those members, Dee, that are still in the group, but we'll leave that alone. We know about, musicians. I mean, my group, honestly, I'm tooting a horn here. We have actually been together for 13 years, which is remarkable for a music group. Dee will attest to that. We all wept when the Beatles broke up. And man, by the way, didn't you photograph Ringo?
Yes. Yes.
How did you get him? How did you get him?
What, the Eagles?
No, Ringo.
Oh, Ringo. Oh, yeah. He was playing in his own band, and he was playing. I don't know. He was at the Coliseum. I don't even know what year it was. Yeah, but he came out on stage and started dancing, and yeah, Ringo, the only Beatle that I shot.
That's okay. I never got to interview any of them. And
Uh-oh.
God knows I tried. I got the Bee Gees, though. I got the Bee Gees.
Well,
and I have a picture with them. Unfortunately, you were not the photographer.
It's on all yellow.
Very funny. I wanted to mention, which has nothing to do with your photography. I missed the beginning of your talk, which I will revisit. Did you discuss how you overcame alcohol? Drinking?
No. it wasn't actually a problem until I found out that I had a liver disease. And I said, oh, my doctor came into the office and said, how much do you drink? And I went, well, I don't drink that much. You know, I have a beer, a couple of beers a day, a glass of wine, making dinner, you know, hang out with the girls, have a few beers, right? I don't know. I like my scotch. She goes, stop. And I did that day. I walked out to the car. I said, I have some liver problems to my husband. And, you know, she told me that if I don't stop drinking and if I don't change my lifestyle, I'll be dead in 2 years.
Oh,
Right.
wow.
Yeah. That was 10 years ago. I just stopped. It wasn't hard at all. And then people would say, did you go through the 12-step program? And I went, no, I didn't have a problem. I had a problem because it was affecting my liver. And we found out later that it wasn't the drinking. Well, it was part of the drinking, but I overdosed myself on ibuprofen.
Oh,
And
wow.
it attacked my liver. And, you know, not being aware, I never read the warning signs on the bottle of extra strength ibuprofen. And what I was doing was I was working hard. I had a day job and a night job and then darkroom time. And I would get up in the morning and I would take an extra strength ibuprofen every morning and sometimes at night. And right on the warning label, it says, change up your medications every 3 weeks because this will do liver damage. Right in the pamphlet that you get.
Oh, wow.
Right. And so that's it.
Well, you know, all of those medications that we get over the counter
All of
have,
them.
they all have these little things, you know, you can read, but many of us don't
We don't
bother.
read them. We
That's
don't.
the problem.
Yeah.
We don't bother.
Yeah.
I mean, go know that extra strength Tylenol. I found that out today from you. I didn't know that affects a person's liver.
Oh, yeah. Oh, anything you ingest, anything you put on your skin, you spray on your hair dye,
Yeah.
whatever, it goes through the liver. The liver cleanses, gets rid of all the garbage, right? And I guess with the ibuprofen and with the drinking, because, you know, I drank every day. I
Yeah.
didn't consider it to be a problem, right? I mean, I didn't black out or I didn't, you know, I was, you know.
I have to interrupt you, and I will tell you this. I wasn't in AA. I was in Al-Anon, which is the sister to AA,
Right.
because at the time in my life, I was going out with, and I'm not telling you who it was, Dee, because you'll
We should
know.
probably tell you that Julie's in the music scene too. So,
Yeah.
okay.
And you
Anyway.
two live in the same town, right? Julie and
Yeah.
Dee?
We do,
Yeah.
but I don't live close enough to her to see her as often as I would like to.
Mm.
Believe me.
All right.
If I was her neighbor, she'd be throwing me out by now. Yeah.
It's a good thing. Julie lives in one part of the city and I live out of the city.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it's like,
Yeah.
So Julie,
Well, how fun. Right?
can
How
wrap-
fun for us to be at this table, right? As these two, you know,
Yeah,
women
yeah.
rock stars like
Oh.
show up together.
And-
we
Yeah.
could tell
I
stories.
am in awe of her. I always have been. She walks her talk. I just want to mention this one little thing. In AA, if you have a drink every day, you're in trouble. It's one thing to have, you know, your couple of glasses of wine a week. But if you drink every day, even if you don't think you have a problem,
Yeah.
you do have a problem.
Yeah.
End of story. And it's your liver, right? It's
Yeah.
going to affect your liver. Yeah.
Yeah.